We're going to have a 45-minute or so session looking at strategy, competition, and innovation in aviation. Quite a diverse range of subjects. No official lunch break, 5 people, 40 minutes. Doing the maths, it's about 5 minutes each. Julie, if you want to grab that seat. Yeah. As the guests are arriving, I'll just introduce them. To my right, I have Julie Shainock, Global Leader, Travel and Transportation Industry, Microsoft. Julie, welcome.
Hi, where do you want me?
You go to my left, Warwick. Just arriving to my left, I've got Warwick Brady, who is the CEO of Swissport.
Make sure they turn it on, will you?
Warwick,
Thank you.
The panel. Over to the right, further to the right, we have Max back again, Max Kownatzki from SunExpress. To the far right, we have Surain Adyanthaya. Did I said your surname okay?
Yeah, right.
Who's President Global Industries Pros. Welcome.
Thank you.
Surain. And Eddie's back again on the left, Eddie Wilson from Ryanair. So let's kick off. I'm going to start to my left, Warwick. I'm going to put you in the hot seat first because I don't recall, certainly not in the panels I've been involved in, having somebody from the handling side of the business before. But Warwick, for anybody who doesn't know, Warwick does have an airline history, maybe more than I know, but he was COO at Ryanair and COO EasyJet.
EasyJet.
And these two guys were old colleagues. Now we're on the other side of the fence, taking chunks out of each other, handling agents, airlines battling for the share of revenue in the whole cost of processing passengers. So Warwick, welcome, as I said.
Thank you very much.
To the panel. I mentioned there, semi-tongue-in-cheek, handling agents have traditionally been like the end of a food chain when it comes to airlines.
Yeah.
There's the tussle between airlines and airports, handlers. The airline wants to pay as little as possible. Swissport's a giant. You probably want to give a few statistics in the world. Is that the reality still today, or is the world changing?
So I think the world has changed. Look, we're an aviation services company. We're in 45 countries. We do about 4 million turnarounds per year in cargo, handling, lounges, fueling. I think what we found from COVID was like we're the kind of invisible backbone to aviation, right? From landing to takeoff. And without us, nothing really moved. So I think our share price went up. So we play a really important part in the aviation. We employ 65,000 people. We have about 95% of them are skilled. It's a really important part of the aviation industry, and we spend a lot of time thinking about how to make us more efficient. So when we think about our own business, we're more kind of a labor and a technology business. That's how we think about it.
And is it still, it would on the face of it sound to be still massively labor intensive, or is that switching?
So look, no, it is still massively labor intensive, and we're setting ourselves a sort of 2030 vision where we're thinking, well, how do we become the heart of operating, whether it be all the equipment or the digitization systems, or sort of improving that sort of what I call the airport experience 2.0 to make it more efficient. I think the digitization and AI will effectively mean less actual labor, and the labor you have will be more focused on the safety and operational aspects. That's kind of how we vision it. So we've got trials of autonomous vehicles. We're using AI to think about how do we really improve the process from check-in to gate to ramp. So lots going on again across that whole network of business lines.
Just flesh that out a bit more, Warwick, because I'm thinking on the one hand, we've heard from other speakers today, of course, we're a people business. And if I don't know if my own experience is typical of many, is you want to go through an airport and have nice people talking to you, reassuring you in some situations, but you don't want to stand in a long queue to check in. You don't want to wait while the baggage is delivered at the other end. You do want your plane to go on time and your bag being on that flight. How does it work out between those elements in terms of where you are using labor and where those improvements come?
Yeah, so look, so the operating model for us is, it's a very accountable model. So everyone has to deliver, and we run it like an airline. Having been an airline, we invested in Swissport Labs, right? Which is we stole the name from
very innovative.
Stole the name from Ryanair. So Swissport Labs, invested in what I call the back office technology, which is making us much more productive, proprietary systems, and then the front of house, which is making effectively, whether it be the immigration system we've got, which is Matchbox, making it very, very quick for airline customers to make sure they have the right documentation, whether it be at the gate or during the booking engine or the booking check-in process. So we're focused on really trying to make that process as efficient for us, as low cost as possible to offer the airlines the most competitive price, but to make it as efficient. And we spend most of our life making sure this business operates safely and on time. And then, of course, we have a big investment into our global academy, which is the first of its kind. We've even partnered with a company called EHL on customer service. So we're obsessive about customer. And even, for example, we ask every customer every single Tuesday, give us a score of how we did last week. The AI tool to be able to then look at Ryanair's, like, tell me about Ryanair's scores and OTP and first bag, last bag for all of their stations, which are performing badly, which are performing well, and then we can correct it. So we use digitizing of our business, we use a lot. We're like in the journey already, we're not starting.
Yeah, so it sounds like massive investment, as you said, in AI, but on the people side as well.
Yeah, no, both technical. So again, go back to kind of this business is a tech business and a labor business.
And does that change your relationship with people like Eddie? I mean, what's your experience, Eddie? Is Swissport in a transition in a good way?
Like we have a long history with Swissport. I mean, we have large contracts with them in Ireland and UK, and also in Morocco. But like, I would echo what Warwick says there. I mean, if you look at what's happening, and we do a lot of self-handling ourselves as well. We do it in Stansted, Dublin, we do it in Poland as well, and we do it in all of Spain. But, you know, when you go to an airport now, like, the kiosks have been around for years, but like, we came along with like, you know, a kiosk without a screen. So that, you know, the screen is now your phone, it's cheaper, you know, you could drop these kiosks from, you know, 4 stories, whatever, and they'd be very durable. But they produce stickers that get people through airports, that transform the airport experience in terms of people spend more money when they get airside quicker. And that's about, like, you know, that's why you're seeing this macro change. The people who own airports think that the airport is the destination. Everyone wants to get through the airport as quickly as possible. Can't stand going to the airport, right? So when you get to the airport, and what you're trying now is to get them through quickly, so that you can lower your costs, and actually people like engaging with technology to get through. So you're seeing that at the front of house, where you've got less people and a better service. And Marek is quite right at the other end, and we see that with Swissport and also with our self-handling business, where the quality and training of people that are coming through are completely different than they were, where you just had people who worked on the ramp years ago in terms of the technology that they use and the efficiencies that go with that. And all those information points will go back through wherever it is, through whatever cloud portal that it comes back down, whether it's through your app or through some other, who knows where that's going to go with the evolution of AI, who's going to be looking at that, but the customer needs to know what's happening and when, and we're going to be able to do that.
Max, does that resonate with you in terms of your experience? I don't know, again, if you're a Swissport customer.
First of all, I need to speak for Surain and me. It's really hard to understand what you said. So we've seen your lips move, and I did hear the check-in kiosk.
I don't think we need the mics up at all.
We've already been on it, so
okay.
If you could repeat the question towards our end, that would be great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I mean, obviously, we're hearing about the automation that's happening on the customer service side, on the handling side, rather, from Warwick. Eddie, much to my surprise in some ways, is resonating. It resonates with him, what's happening, the improvement, the efficiency, the use of technology in the airport handling side.
Yeah. I mean, I think the most important part on the customer side is that we do automation, we do standardization, we do digitalization, and we always call it a dehumanized irreg and humanized reg, right? Now we've replaced dehumanized because we don't want to do anything that is dehumanized, but we've replaced it with automate and standardize, right? And I think what we shouldn't do is lose track of sort of the human factor when people are in distress, when people run into problems, when there is a booking problem. And so what we're trying to do is really man up, woman up, staff up the irregularity case, while at the same time automating, standardizing the blue sky environments. That's kind of what we're trying to do. I think kiosk is a great example. If you look at it on paper, you know, it seems like you need X many fewer check-in counters, But in reality, you see people lost in front of these machines, partly not knowing where to go. Then the bag tag doesn't come out. They don't know how to put the bag tag on, where to drop it off, and so on. So there's a lot of hand-holding. You'll see this. And I think, again, what we as airlines need to do, we need to accompany the passenger in points of sort of emotional stress, while at the same time automating, the maximum out of it for blue sky operations.
Yeah, and I mean, if you are there representing an airline, Swissport, at any given airport, and so it's actually some of your people who might be in that airline's uniform, is that part of your thinking as well? Because what you made me think there, Max, is, you get a self-check-in bag. Many people are freaked out, me included. I've not done it before, so what do you do? If there's no manpower to support that, then the whole thing falls flat. But are you investing in that so you get the technology benefits, but you, as you said, get the customer support?
I think when things go wrong, right? Whether there's drones, or there's mass cancellations, or the French are on strike as usual. I mean, the disruption is palpable, and I think what we try and do is, from a front of house perspective, is train our guys to be really, to be able to deal quickly, at pace, with those situations. But of course, the interface with the airline is so important, because actually the technology, we need technology to be able to change your flight and all that sort of stuff. And if you've only got a few kiosks, it's hard. But yeah, we do a lot of training around.
Yeah, I'll give you a good example of that. When you had the cyber attack at the airports there 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So in Berlin, which still isn't fixed, okay, all the kiosks and everything went down, all their systems went down. But the Ryanair, we had a small number of kiosks that were through the cloud, didn't go through the airport infrastructure. Now, we could have been hit as well, but just to give you an idea. And we had an agent app that we hadn't even released, but we decided to release it on that day, and we were able to check people in, okay? Right. So the idea that airports need all this infrastructure, that's what's changing, And at the, when you're on a meltdown day like that, what people want to know is, can I get my bag through? Can my boarding card be read? And can I get on the flight, on the right flight? So it isn't that difficult. The airports make it more complicated in actually bringing that fluidity through. And that will go through to the handling agents as well, because you'll have one type of interface. So if there's the Ryanair agent app, then Swissport will be using it, or Menzies will be using it, or Ryanair self-handling will be using it. So it's really about smart technology,
Julie, you're hearing what the guys are saying. You have, I guess, the bird's eye view, because you're working with people across the whole infrastructure, airlines, airports, handlers. Give us your thoughts on what you've heard so far. I mean, it sounds to me there are steps forward. Is it enough? Is it going smoothly?
It is getting smoother. I think at Microsoft, we really envision a travel ecosystem with generative AI, cloud-native platforms, and intelligent agents that really can anticipate a traveler's wants and needs, and then you're able to provide a seamless, frictionless experience across all the different touch points of the journey. So as you go from home to curb, you're at the curb of the airport. The other thing we envision is the agents. So I'm going to have my own agent that's going to opt in, and it opt in with the information it wants to share with the airport, so that it can direct me through and get me through the airport a lot quicker. So I think you're going to see a lot more happen from an agent level. And when
you say agent, because I know we were chatting on the phone last week, and I'll be honest, showing my vintage or ignorance, I didn't know what agentic AI was. So explain a bit for people like me, what does agentic AI mean in this kind of context that we're talking about?
Okay, so an agent is an intelligent, it's not a person, but it reasons. So it's going to use models. Using AI, and it's going to reason and bring the right insights forward. So this agent, you're going to see this in the airports, you're going to see it in hotels, because in a hotel today, you'll check in and then you're digitally ignored on the property the entire time you're there. So you're going to start to see where you can actually utilize and engage with agents throughout the airport itself. So we do see that, and then then the airlines are going to know where you are and what you're doing and those kinds of things.
So I was amazed at what Eddie said, that they had this new agent ready. They weren't even planning to use it that day, and they were actually able to use it in anger, in reality, in support, right away. It was that good.
That's right. That's right. And you'll start to see that.
Yeah.
And you'll also see, so we do work with airlines around turn times, and you can look, so, everyone above and below the wing, you don't need to walk down the jetway anymore. Everyone's communicating, even, OCC, SOC, as well as maintenance. And what you'll see is you can actually look across the entire day and then start to anticipate through AI, anticipate which flights are going to be affected, maybe be delayed, and then you can handle those types of issues in advance.
Yeah.
And these are the kinds of things that you can do today with agentic AI.
When you talked about above and below the wing, I mean, we know the industry historically has been very siloed.
Yes,
is this
it is
a way
siloed.
it still is, and it's still a
Yes.
problem, you would say?
Yeah, it's still siloed, but that's okay. Well, it's not okay, but what you want to do, and this is why agentic is so important to the travel industry itself, is because it is very siloed today, and it's also has complex processes that have to be taken care of. So in order to do all of that, you've really got to bring down the silos where you can, but you don't have to move all the data anymore. You can actually utilize one of our tools called Fabric, and we can actually utilize information on different hyperscalers as well, and then you've got that single source of truth. So that's another way
Will it kind of
doing
stop?
it.
I mean, it's very much a personal thing, but will it stop this mentality of information is power? I've got this, but I'm not going to share it with you. Does it have to break through that
exactly.
rubbish?
And we've been talking for years about sharing information between airlines and airports, and that's one thing that has to take place. And then the other piece of all of this, and you've heard it throughout the conference, is in order to really utilize and take advantage of AI, generative AI, you really have to have your data in the right format and that kind of thing. I don't want to underestimate that. That you do have to do. And it's very important. Data
Yeah,
is
because
what
I guess you're
provides
using
AI
different people, different skill levels, and if
right.
you're going to get the best out of them with the data, it's got to be usable, not just data for data's sake.
That's correct. That's correct. You have to have the ability to draw the right insights.
What's the view of the three of you on the siloing? I mean, how do you see it, Max? I mean, it's still too much of that? Is this for you?
Yeah, I think the GDPR definitely has thrown a wrench in the hopper there. There's more to be done. I think if we look at how, for example, you exit countries in Asia and you have CBP and security, for example, intermingled, or airline boarding processes with a simple iPad, and sort of doing the exit record. I think there's countries we can definitely learn from. But I don't want to shame and blame technology only. I think I just would like to give one example, which we're using in our call center, where we're looking at sort of facial recognition software and audio sensing. And by the way, I need that at home. And it basically depicts in what mood that customer's in, and whether I could be more likely to sell something to him or her, or whether I should now try to end the conversation while we're still in peace terms, right? So I think there's a lot of things where we can actually, this humanize the irreg part, where we can use technology to actually make it more human. And I think one is sort of, boundary spanning across different silos. Yes, that's there, and sort of EU regulation doesn't really help on that. And second is really leveraging technology to become more human, right?
Okay. And we said these disruption situations and this siloing again, not everybody having the information. Do you guys feel there's progress being made thanks to AI, that everybody has what is needed to airline, airport handler?
Well, from an airline point of view, you want to own that, because like the information moves so quickly. The idea that you're going to include everyone, if you've ever been in an OCC, it's like, it's the plan, what are we going to do now? And if you've got the systems that can communicate quickly, and I spoke on an earlier presentation where we've developed systems in-house whereby it's in the operations center, you can rapidly get that information out about what's happening, there's a spare aircraft coming, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The problem is that you don't necessarily have the gate agents integrated to that at the moment, but that's coming because we had to release it. We had it pretty much developed, but so everyone has the same information at the same time, But you still get problems, like the storms last weekend, whereby no matter how hard you try, you'll send a message out to people to say that we think, the people in the OCC think that the winds are going to abate within 2 hours, and it appears on their app, and then the pilot gets on, not unreasonably, who's the person flying the airplane, and says he thinks that the wind is going to abate in an hour. And nobody knows what they're talking about in this airline.
I mean, it just makes me think.
It's only so far you can go as well, okay? But I think if people are reasonable about having some information, reasonably accurate, I don't think you're ever going to get to that sort of Xanadu sort of thing where everyone's going to know everything at the same time. You know, you get lost.
I mean, it just made me think that a flight I was on about 18 months ago, I could see the aircraft was at the gate, but I could see 30 minutes before departure on a very full flight, no sign of boarding, spoke to the handling agent. It was not the airline, and it wasn't Swissport either, but they were saying, we haven't had any information, we don't know anything. So is this something that's still in your focus, Warwick?
Yeah, no, so look, I think there's going about the data, with the with the airline data, with the airport data and our data, like if we can get that together, and some airports, we do that very well, and some of our airline partners, we're already sharing, we've got data, they've got data, we can share it in a way to make sure that the performance of the business is obviously better managed. But I mean, the key is obviously in a disruption, we're the recipient and we're the people on the ground dealing with the issue. So the more information the customers have, with the better up to date is obviously much easier to handle. If they know they're going to the hotel, if they know when their next flight is, they know their bag is going to come tomorrow, then it's much easier. It's when they don't get any information, right? So that's the key.
Yeah.
Let's move it on, Surain. I'm not trying to leave you out. I'm actually saving up because
I'm ready.
I'm more of a revenue management kind of a supporter myself for my own background and career. So save the best till last. So more on the innovative side of use of AI and technology. You're a rev man guy through and through, representing pros. I think you were telling me you've been around, shouldn't say, perhaps 30 years, about 30 years.
Yeah, I've been at Pros since we were a startup.
But revenue management is something that has always evolved, even before the days of AI. But AI has got to have given it a big kick. And now we hear all these amazing buzzwords about dynamic pricing, personalization. We heard earlier today about offers and orders. What does it mean in terms of the revenue management contribution today for airlines?
Well, I think we should start by talking about the customer, because what value can we provide to the customer?
When you say the customer, do you mean your airline customers or
the traveler?
The traveler.
The traveler, for sure. I think we're at a very interesting crossroads where technology and the expectations of the customer are converging. With the new Gen Z travelers, who are now a big predominant number of travelers, they have very high expectations that it's more of an Amazon-like transaction, where they get a response within a couple of seconds, it's relevant, transactable, and it's aware of what their needs and wants are. The problem we've had in the airline world is we've been shackled by these legacy systems, like the PSS, built in the 60s and 70s, and even the latest versions are some variant of something that was built 30 years ago plus. And just think about it, the number of price points that can be offered are limited by the letters in the alphabet. Now, how does that make sense? So, given all of that, IATA has pushed for this offers and orders initiative, which is let's move forward from these legacy architectures and let's create a real e-retailing type of framework for airlines, so that airlines can create great offers and then transact on them with an order instead of a cobbled together set of infrastructures. So it's exciting. Now, on top of that, AI has come of age. So it all sort of has come together at the right time. So, I mean, as you mentioned, John, we've been involved in revenue management for a long time, but because of all of this, we're now able to do things like dynamic pricing, where instead of having prices at booking classes, having them exactly at the price points that we think the consumer will transact upon it. Things like bundling and dynamic bundling, where an airline's offering not just a seat, but ancillaries or third-party ancillaries. And because if you think about it, most travelers, the first thing they do is they book their flight before the hotel. Airlines are first to wallet of the traveler. So this is an opportunity to not only sell a ticket, but actually help create the entire travel experience for that passenger. So the AI platform we have built over 3 decades at Pros really focuses on how do we help the passenger achieve their travel goals, and how do we help the airline maximize their revenue. Currently, we have over 50% of all global air traffic going through our platform for pricing. And it gives us an opportunity to see the data, see all of this happening in real time, 4.3 trillion transactions, more than twice MasterCard and Visa combined. The airline problem is hard. We are literally one of the most difficult problems to solve in the world. You need extreme scalability, which Julie and others are familiar with, and it requires AI in real time. So these are all things at play, but the beautiful part is it's now a reality. We have airlines in production, like the Lufthansa Group has spoken about the value they've driven by having dynamic pricing in production, and many others. So it's a very exciting time.
As a kind of an old-timer revenue management guy, I kind of, on the one hand, it's exciting, the things that can be done now that in the past couldn't, and you lost opportunities that somebody walked away because the price was too high or it didn't have what they wanted. And even thinking that all you could do was show them the price and the time of flight left, nothing more about the succulent meal, the comfortable seat, the punctuality record, whatever, the visuals.
Right.
But it's very risky, it goes the other way. This phrase, I think you just used it, willingness to pay. I love this. I thought it could be like wallet tapping potential. But you're trying to get somebody to pay just the maximum amount they would. And it's great that you avoid somebody walking away. But that level of individuality, we don't have this in a restaurant or a supermarket. Can we really get there? And what if that person's view is different to somebody else and they speak to that person? How far can we go in that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think individualization of an offer, that's a tricky topic.
Yeah.
Especially like the EU and the US and others.
Yeah.
Having equitable offers is extremely important. So having transparency as to how these offers are created, with transparent and understandable and ethical AI is extremely important, and we're very focused on that. But you should think about it instead of Julie and I getting a different offer, we have a business traveler and a leisure traveler. Exactly. And having that segmentation so that both...
I mean, you had that in the days of old, but in a much more rigid way.
But much more sophisticated in real time.
Julie, you want to add a point?
I mean, I totally agree with what Surain is saying, and I think, the context is one of the issues we've never been able to deal with. But today, with AI and all the other technology that we have, we can actually do context today. Surain talked about real-time, pricing. Real-time is the other key piece that we have to have.
Well, that was amazing. In the past, prices might change at midnight when the system ran and reset the next day. Somebody took some inventory, but it sat there unchanged.
Yeah, you're right. In the past, all the managers would come into the office on Monday morning and look at their load factor forecast, and then let's do a fare sale immediately for these flights. So yeah, Tuesday you might get a good opportunity, but now it's 24/7 real time, so that doesn't happen so much.
And the dynamic pricing, I mean, again, how does it feed into the different systems? I mean, how does it get there to be dynamic?
Well, the interesting part, and I think the discussion was going there, of bringing data together and getting signals as to what the consumer intent is possible today. Really, if you think about the airline offer, there are three components. One is the customer DNA of who this traveler is. Then there's the context of the buying opportunity. Does it look like a leisure traveler, a business traveler, so on and so forth. And third is the product DNA. What are the products you have to offer, the seat and the ancillary? So if you take these plus outside signals about what's going on in the market, you can actually bring them together in real time now and then create a unique offer. So that's the beauty of what AI and real-time technology allows us to do now.
What do you airline guys think, Max and Eddie? You've talked about disintermediation pricing.
Yeah, but I mean, on dynamic pricing, I mean, I wouldn't like people give this industry an awful lot more credit than it's due, like just because when they're on the web looking at a fare and it moves, oh, they know what I'm doing. We don't, right? Okay, it's just somebody else bought it, right? But you're quite right on what you say there on, it's very tricky on personalization, and, quite frankly, a lot of the personalization is great for talking about rather than implementing, but certainly if we can move away from models that are restricted by the number of letters in the alphabet, which a lot of people would be surprised that that still goes on. And when we're doing dynamic pricing, we do it on, don't forget that you're looking for a continuous demand curve, right? Okay, what works? And that's going to be driven by marginal departure times of those flights or your competitors or whatever, and trying to build those with some certainty is really, really tricky. And when you've got the computing power to do that, that helps you in trying to get people, I suppose, to pay what they really would have paid for, rather than you just having a dumb offer that they all go, oh, I would have paid more for that. So you want that computing power to set those demand curves, so you've got a reasonable chance. In the case of Ryanair, because we don't maximize revenue, we go for load factor first. So we have to get there. So we've done this by having two competing models inside that work against one another, and one of those models has worked, and the other is now a challenger model that now tries to do that better and better, and we do it on a discrete part of the network. But we haven't fed in yet what our competitors are doing. What is the time of the day of what we've done on this flight? Was that the same as last year? So there's a huge amount more to go. I think we tend to focus on the science fiction Star Trek bit at the end, but there's an awful lot of spade work that is going on behind the scenes to get us to where we really need to be. I don't know what you think.
Max, is it science fiction, Star
Trek? Well, I think we got to look, I think this whole discussion revolves around flight revenue. And I think we got to look far beyond that, because I think in one of your previous sessions you talked about, how sort of fares have come down over the last 20, actually for us it's been longer, it's 35, 40 years, and we've seen significant decreases in flight revenue. So I think where we're sort of segueing, all of us is sort of the ancillary part.
Yeah.
And what I always like is focusing on ancillaries that have a positive connotation with the passenger. So those are win-win things where you actually sell something that they perceive as a positive value add.
I mean, you've just put a range of Turkish meals on your flight recently.
For example, you've seen my LinkedIn post.
I saw your video.
Adyanthaya, that's right. By the way, the chocolate mousse is also great. But in seriousness, what we need to do is, if we slap up the fees on online check-in, for example, and if we print out that boarding pass for you, charge you an arm and a leg, that's going to be negative connotation and negative customer experience. What we're trying to do is create things that have positive connotations, and for that, we need to identify what these passengers want, right? Even sometimes when we don't know it yet, they don't know it yet, and that's where the segmentation comes in. That's why I think the data mining underneath it is so important to understand, okay, this is, archetype A, and they travel twice a year, and they visit family, and then they do beach vacation there, and knowing that is basically what's going to inform us. I'll give you an example. We did a Corona insurance during the Corona years, right? Which is like, you don't even need to provide a PCR test to show that you were positive to basically make the ticket fully refundable. People loved it, absolutely loved it. We made good money with it, and it was a positive. And this is I think, where we need to focus more on. Let the flight revenues, with all the regulation, all of that stuff, further deteriorate, and let's focus on where we actually still make money.
And Surain, I'm sure you want to come in on that, because it is broadening out beyond simply
we prearranged that question.
But there's a lot of opportunity with ancillaries as well, because most airlines have very static ancillary pricing, and we actually have experimented with AI, and now we have a product that Air Baltic has used, and they saw a 6% improvement in ancillary revenues through this new form of AI that tests slight changes in the ancillary prices, and in real time trains itself on what the consumer is looking for and willing to pay. And that could be a slightly higher price or a lower price. But
somebody asked me the other day, are airlines doing this? And I was puzzling myself and said, well, on board, they can't really exactly sell a sandwich or a coffee at different prices, but things like seat choice or speedy boarding, maybe on different flights for more business customers or booking early, I guess that's
right. Seat selection, baggage, there are many different ones. There will be certain ones airlines want to keep as their foundational ancillaries with a set price, but there are others that airlines may want to try to see what the willingness to pay is.
It's not only pricing; it's also inventory of your products, right?
Yes.
So, for example, on our Turkey to the UK flights, we have a different assortment of products. Right. So, I mean, you know, we talked about sort of a beer and wine consumption, for example. We've talked about tomato juice. These are route specific, and I'm sure at airports you have the same, right? You know, whether you have Russians or Americans or Germans coming in, it's a different consumer profile, and I think that we can tap into, and that turns into dollars as well.
Julie, do you want to put in a...
The only thing I was going to add also is, you know, we definitely have to understand the customer's wants and needs. That also applies to context. But the other aspect is acquiring new customers as well. So we worked with an airline that was looking to lower the cost of acquisition, customer acquisition. And we were actually able, we worked with another partner and we were actually able to cut that in half. So I think all of this is, it all goes back to the data, what you know about your passengers, what you don't know about your passengers, and how do you group that together, segment it, as you were talking about, and be able to deliver that to the marketplace. The more you know, the better you're going to have that look-to-book ratio, as well as all the ancillaries that you're going to package around it. So.
Well, just to bring you back in, because I mean, you talked at the beginning about how your business is evolving in composition. It's not only about a handling contract for airlines. One thing which seems to me is growing for you is lounges, which itself is an ancillary, whether you are running lounges or airlines are selling access. I mean, some people get in the lounges because of their loyalty points, but there's a bigger and bigger market, isn't for that, as a revenue flow.
So, I mean, look, lounges, I mean, we get a lot of, certainly get a lot of Ryanair and LCC customers in our lounges. I mean, all our lounges are paid for lounges. They're high margin. With the right product and the right mix. I mean, so we've got 100 plus, we're going to grow to 200 plus lounges. It's a very nice part of our portfolio. I mean, the lounge experience at airports, especially with very busy airports, is in demand, and we do price, you know, if you go to a lounge, it might be €60 or £60, right, depending on the time of day and the lounge.
And does the offer, as Max was saying, does the offer vary? I remember going to one at Stansted years ago, and being very disappointed. They had big, like, Workingmen's Social Club thick sandwiches, white bread with thick butter and sausage. I was expecting something.
Yeah, but now, you know, that even with the, like, just take the sort of technology, we can see who's in the lounge, which tables are being cleared, we can see which products are really interesting and which are not, and then you can really gauge your pricing from that.
And in that innovation, who's taking the margin? Is it you or is it...
Well, the lounges, they're our
Eddie
lounges, so it's us, we're taking the lounges. We will sell it on behalf, well, I think if it's in the booking channel, we'll obviously do a commission.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
interesting.
yeah, we also love making money. I know that sounds strange for a handler.
Just come back to you, Surain. I mean, Pros is working with airlines across the spectrum. I mean, we've got two, or one is a pure low cost. Do you call yourself low cost or?
We call ourselves a value carrier.
Value carrier. But you have network carriers, global network carriers, and all the connecting and stuff. Are you able to apply these new disciplines right across that spectrum of airlines?
Yes, you're right. We have like over 170 airlines on our platform currently. And they do have very different strategies and goals. As you would have at Ryanair, it would be very different than Lufthansa and so on and so forth. So we have to really build a platform that's configurable, because we really believe that airlines will continue to differentiate themselves with their strategies and how they do dynamic pricing, how they create offers, what's more valuable to them, the seat or the ancillary or third-party ancillaries, how they bring it all together. So that flexibility is extremely important to accommodate a variety of airline strategies.
Would you include, I mean, even, again, thinking of more long-haul airlines, things like cabin changes, upgrades, and so on?
Yeah, absolutely. Upgrades, flexible cabin configurations, where you can actually have convertible seats. You can expand it depending on demand patterns. All of those are factored in.
And as I was saying, I mean, NDC, you know, which is coming along more strongly. I mean, as I alluded earlier, the fact that in the past you had a grey or a green screen, you sold a seat, you sold what time it was going, that was it. You didn't, as Eddie said, know anything about the competition. You didn't try to sell or seduce about any other service elements. Either Julie or Surain want to add something on that?
Go ahead, Julie.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you know, today it's much more sophisticated. You know, it's about the information that you can get and merging all that information together to draw the right insights and deliver the right offerings that you want to do. it's all about the data. It goes back to the data and what you have. So, bringing in your loyalty data, bringing in, Surain was already talking about it, information about what's going on in that particular, region or area or city at that point in time. There's a lot of different factors that key into this.
And I think sorry.
No, what I'd add, it's a very exciting time, but it's also a time, exactly as you were saying, to try things and move fast.
Exactly.
This is not a time to have huge waterfall projects. It's really try different things, maybe in different markets.
Like Eddie said,
yeah, exactly, as Eddie said.
Yeah.
And then find what works for you as an airline and have a platform that allows you to do all of that.
It's making it maybe a bit more scientific. I can't remember, it was one of the articles on your website I read talking about getting more scientific.
Yes, yes.
We always talked about revenue management as an art. And I mean, I did biology and chemistry at the age of 16 and learned about control experiments, and that was the end of my science exposure.
But it's all about
We do all day, just experiments, sure,
Fantastic. Just, I mean, one question coming up, we touched on it. We are exposed more and more to these cyber attacks. We've had the recent thing in European airports. We had the CrowdStrike, which some airlines got affected more than others. Is the industry working enough, everything, handlers, airlines, vendors, so that all this incredible leading edge stuff is dependable, that we are not going to be flawed by whoever, whatever decides to come in with some malware or bring stuff down? Julie, if you want to lead that on.
Yes, so at Microsoft, everything is based on security. We've got a security first development. We have about 35,000 architects that are, every product we build, it has a security first mentality, zero trust, all that kind of stuff, so that everything is secure and the products we're building are also secure and adhering to all the cybersecurity standards and our products. So we've got even a security co-pilot that you can utilize as well. But it is one of the tenets and most important tenets within Microsoft today is the security for our customers on our platforms.
But it's no good. It's no good if people, most of the stuff is down to sort of dumb stuff of people clicking the wrong links or whatever, and you'll see what's happened. It's not particularly sophisticated, a lot of it that comes through. We see this from vendors. We regularly contact vendors to say, you've been hacked, and they can't get through to us because we know before they do, because we've got these teams that constantly try to penetrate our own defenses, red teams or whatever, all the time. But there's no insurance policy against it. But a lot of your smaller vendors who haven't invested in any of the products or whatever that Microsoft are churning out, it's no good. It's no good if they don't have them, and it's certainly no good if they have them and they don't use them. So a lot more could be do, like, again, really simple stuff.
Surain, any comments from you as a vendor?
Well, from all our airline customers, protecting the customer data and privacy is paramount. Very, very important. And we invest heavily in working with our airlines to make sure that they feel that we're dotting every I, crossing every T as far as security is concerned. We, like you said, Eddie, we hire third parties to try to penetrate our software, and fortunately we have a spotless track record on that.
Okay. We're running over time. A lot of things we didn't have time to touch on. Anybody got an itching, burning desire to bring another item before we go? Are you all good? Great. Well, in that case, thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for sticking with the panel.
Thank you.
Thanks to all my panelists. Eddie from Ryanair, Warwick from Swissport, Julie from Microsoft, Max from SunExpress, and Surain from Pros. Have a good afternoon, folks. I'll see you again tomorrow.